Good morning and welcome to our Live Talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our Live Talk program covering natural health. And this year, Wednesday morning, rise and shine and give God the glory. And this morning here, I'm doing the topic, why think defensively for your health? Why think defensively for your health? So welcome again. Hopefully the blessed night rest and you're ready to take on this day's challenges and opportunities. Thanks for being with me here. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, thank you again for the blessings of your word, for the instruction, the light that you give to us to give us deeper understanding as how to live in this world, dear Lord, of the shadow of death. I pray that you may bless us, dear Father, that we might walk humbly and wisely before thee. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. So I'm looking at this topic, why think defensively for your health? Why think defensively for your health? So why think in a proactive, defensive manner for your health? And this is something that's important, and I'll just say quickly before I get into it, because I'm going to read an article first that has nothing to do with this topic per se. But it is interesting how in life, as you observe nature and you observe the world, that everything has defense mechanism that is living, has defense mechanism, how to protect itself, how to perpetuate life. And all of this is part of it. And we, in essence, I would say, have left less defenses. And most of what we have is our brain. And so we end up building defenses with our intelligence, while the animals have horns and hoofs and fangs and all that type of stuff. So it's interesting. So I want to talk about that after I read this article here with you, which I find the thought of the topic, why think defensively for your health, is very important. So I'm going to read a quick article just because I thought it's important to share. These to me are like public service announcements. So to keep you informed that even this is about alcohol, and even if you're not a drinker of alcohol, it's important for you to share this with other people. You can always go there, find the article, throw it over there to somebody that you love, you're concerned with, because this is serious, especially parents, because this is involving binge drinking. Severe alcohol, the topic is severe alcohol-related liver disease on the rise, study find, and this is taken from NBC News on the health section. And this is written by Linda Carroll, so you can go find it there, Carroll. Severe alcohol-related liver disease is on the rise, a new study suggests. Experts say the increase may be due to heavy binge drinking, especially in young adults. Researchers found that while there has been little change in the rate of people developing alcoholic fatty liver disease, there appears to be an increase in those who are at greater risk of cirrhosis, liver cancer, and death, according to the new study published in JAMA. I think what triggered me to do the study was seeing a lot of patients with advanced alcoholic fatty liver, said the study lead author, Dr. Robert Wong, assistant clinical professor of medicine and director of research and education at the Alameda Health System Hospital, Highland Hospital. The most concerning finding was that the number of patients with more advanced disease, which increased the risk of dying, increased significantly over the time period we study. So as they were studying, the numbers went up. The new report added to the mounting evidence that more and more Americans are developing severe liver disease. A study published last summer found that increasing numbers of young people were dying from alcohol-related liver failure. That study, published in the British Medical Journal, linked heavy alcohol consumption in young people to a pronounced increase of death. Alcoholic liver disease is one of the leading cause of death in the United States, Wong noted, adding that nearly 250,000 deaths were attributed to the disease in 2010. In fact, he said, A 2016 study showed that it's become the number one reason for liver transplant in the United States. To determine whether rates of disease were rising, Wong and his colleague turned to data from 2001 to 2016 from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. The database includes information on people's self-reported drinking habits as well as liver enzyme measurements from periodic blood tests. The amount of alcohol that was considered to be enough to lead to liver damage in this study was 2 or more drinks per day for women and 3 or more drinks per day for men. The research excluded people from their analysis who had medical conditions that could also lead to fatty liver disease, such as obesity, metabolic syndrome, hepatitis C and B. And that, Wong said, means that the final number in the study might actually be an understatement. And that's, I'll pause here because that's a good point. I don't want to forget that. So a person, they eliminate people who could have fatty liver based upon alcohol consumption because they didn't want to skew the numbers, because people could have a fatty liver based upon obesity, metabolic syndrome, hepatitis C and B. So very interesting and very good. Those exclusion left 34,423 of the participants for the analysis, which identify 4.3% of having alcoholic fatty liver disease. The average age of those with the disease was 40. So 40-year-old was the average age, which is interesting. Wong hoped that this research will help raise awareness of the issue and spark more conversation about alcohol consumption between doctors and patients. And why I share this here, between people you know and probably parents and their kids. And that might help get patients plugged into resources that could help prevent them from becoming one of those patients with advanced fatty liver disease, he said. While the study has limitation, it's clear that there are many more sick livers out there due to alcohol, says Dr. Elliot Tapper, a liver disease specialist and assistant professor at the University of Michigan. Tapper was lead author for a prize study that found increasing numbers of young people dying because of alcohol-related liver disease. If you were to come with me on my rounds in the hospital, you would see that in every other room there is a 28-year-old and a 30-year-old with severe liver disease. The reason for this increase in young people may be the rising rate of binge drinking. There have been studies in the last few years that suggest that amongst millennials, about 40% will report binge drinking in the past month. That means it's basically become a part of the culture of the American millennial. There's no historical precedent for that. Tapper believed that consuming 7 to 14 drinks in a binge is far worse for the liver than drinking 1 to 2 drinks per day. One issue the new study didn't raise was the increasing rate of liver disease in women, says Dr. Sami Saab, a professor of medicine and surgery and head of outcomes research in hepatology at the David Goffin School of Medicine at the University of California, Los Angeles. What we are seeing now is an explosion of young women with liver disease, Saab says. Young women are dying in their 30s and 40s. Nevertheless, Saab said that the new study doesn't bring more attention to the very serious problem that's been ignored for many years. So here's that article. So as I say, I wanted to share this before I go into my main topic. Because I think this is a very important public service announcement type of thing. Important for you to share. It's the awareness, as they say, is not being there because it's been ignored. As I say, alcohol is something that is accepted as part of having fun, being happy. But according to this doctor, which is to me alarming information, because this is one of the top killers in the United States, that so many young people in their 30s and 40s are dying, and that is 250,000 people, and that they're probably underestimating the amount of people with sick liver, and that is one of the largest one of the largest causes of transplant in liver transplant, because, as it says here, largest cause of liver transplant in the United States because of the amount of damage. And what he considers as, just running back through some of the information, that what he considers here as a binge is a person drinking 7 to 14, I guess, cups or bottles of beer or alcohol per binge. So I'll just read it again. Tapper believes that consuming 7 to 14 drinks in the binge is far worse on the liver than drinking 1 to 2 per day. So imagine you're doing a research and you're looking at what's the result on the liver when it comes on to drinking 2 to 3 drinks a day. And that is bad. That's bad. That's a person who's really alcoholic, but they don't know. And you're doing that research, and then you're finding out, wait a minute, we're having more of a problem. And I'm thinking it's probably the amount of young people he's seen in the hospital that's triggering the research. But anyhow, you're doing that. So imagine you're doing a research, and then all of a sudden you come upon this thing and you realize, wait a minute, you have all these young people that claim to 40% of young adults. This is unbelievable numbers. Because I've never heard it, that's why. So 40% of young people claim to have binge drink in the last month. And so if you say binge drink is 7 to 14 drinks, I'd almost want to clarify that. What do you mean drinks? Like the whole drink? Because a drink could be more than 8 ounces. So a cup is 8 ounces. So that's a lot of fluid to put in oneself per episode. No, you wouldn't say episode. You would say it's per session. So you do a session. I don't know how long the session is lasting, and the person is doing, say, 7 cups minimum to 14 cups of fluid in one session. It's a lot of fluid, period. And just even if you're drinking that much amount of water, just imagine if every day you flip it now, and every day these young people, 40% of young people claim that they drank at least once a month 7 to 14 cups of water. How different the outcomes would be. Just once a day, for one day, in a month, they would do that. Just drink 7 to 14 cups of water. So it's a lot of water. It's almost a gallon. When you can start getting up into 14 cups, it's a lot. So you can imagine it would change their health outcome there. Yeah, they're just at 14 cups. You're just, I think, 2 cups or so off a gallon. So you're getting close to a gallon at that point. Yep, you're 2 cups off. So that's significant. Just imagine a whole gallon of alcohol. Anyhow, so stop being mesmerized here. So if you look at this here, so notice he says almost every other room. Now, I don't know if he's speaking literally or he's just speaking, I don't know. But if I take it as what he says if you come on a tour with him as he goes around, he does his rounds in the hospital, he's claiming, which again, when I read this before, I was like, is that really going on? Is drinking that much of a problem in our society? That he's claiming that every other room he goes to, there's a young person in there, a young person in their 30s and 40s in almost every other room with a liver disease. And most of this is coming from binge drinking. Were you aware of that this is what's going on? I know people drink, but to that level, I am not. So I'm being honest. I'm probably in a bubble to a certain degree. But I never know people drink to that point where they're you could go into a hospital room and he's saying every other, I guess it's for the liver flora, but it couldn't be. But probably could be just for liver patients. And every other room he's saying for liver disease is not has to do with obesity or metabolic syndrome or hepatitis. He probably saying for every two patients, one is linked to alcohol. So that's that there. So I wanted to share that with you because here you have an increasing problem, and here you have the society moving. So when you think opiate is the problem, or marijuana, or cocaine, or just even the legal drugs, and or the diet with it, obesity is the problem that's causing problems in the medical system. And you could just keep going on the list of all the different things that are killing people or making people disabled or sick. And then they say, well, no, there's something that's going on over here. And you say, what? And they say, oh no, young people binge drinking. 40%, that's one out of almost one out of every two do a binge drink of 7 to 14, almost a gallon of alcohol in one session. That's amazing. You thinking 2 to 3 a day, the person unbeknownst to themselves is an alcoholic, and you think that's bad. 7 to 4, a whole gallon. You can't even get people to drink half a gallon of water a day, much as a whole gallon. Half a gallon would be 8 cups, and can't get that, much less a whole gallon. So I'll move on here. I don't want to belabor that, but I find there's more I could say there. Fascinating. This is where the millennial young people are going. It's like life without boundaries, and this life that is just depressing and need to be numbed. Imagine, it seemed like the generation that has seemed to be the most cushion and the most technology and the most freedoms and the most protection and investment and everything that life has to offer, the most creature comforts. They don't have to go out there and chop wood, so to speak. It seemed like it's the most depressed and drugged up generation that's coming up, our age, I guess my age group down, the age group that I guess I belong into, and going down into the 30s and 40s, 30s and 20s, seem to be the generation that is born in all this technology and all this social media, and they need to be numb from morning until evening. Quite fascinating and just fun. So we continue. So I want to go now to my topic, and which is why I think defensively for your health. So why I think defensively for your health. So a healthy fear, a healthy suspicion, caution is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's healthy. In this world, we're in this world, and what we often are taught, we're more taught by the life sometime, or by those who we come around, to not have a healthy fear and suspicion. I think especially in church, when people say you're saved, the blood of Christ is upon you, you're washed in the blood of the Lamb, Jesus is your protection, the angels your protection, and you can celebrate your salvation. And I think what it does to people in the church, and then there's other reasons in the secular world, it doesn't teach us the reality that the Bible teaches. And because of that, people are skeptical of evil. They're skeptical of things like a devil. They're skeptical of a lot of things. And the things they're skeptical of, I'm going to touch on some of these things, that when you have those concepts in your mind, it should translate into be very careful, check, double check, read, pay attention, be cautious. Because if you don't, then what it is that you put your defenses down, and by putting your defenses down, you end up exposing yourself to all the harm unnecessarily in a very ignorant way. And that to me is the way we're brought up. I think if I was doing schooling, this would be one of the class I teach children. You gotta have a healthy fear. And you gotta be proactive for your health. You gotta know that not everything you see you should put in your mouth. That's what you teach a child, right? But after the child stop putting dirt and other things in their mouth, we stop teaching them. But I believe you continue with that. As a matter of fact, ironically enough, there was an article yesterday where this couple, I think in Mongolia, ate marmot, which is something from the, the what is it now? It's some animal that's like a rodent, and they ate it, I think, raw, and they end up dying of bubonic plague. So I don't think their parents taught them, these two adults, I don't think their parents taught them, you can't take everything and put in your mouth. So that's the type of thing to me that is important when we say, why think defensively? When you look at nature lends this idea here. The animals are built with defense. Our immune system is built with defense. Our bodies is built with an immune system to deal with viruses and pathogens and all kind of bugs and stuff. The herbs have a passive defense system. It doesn't work like the immune system, but it's there. Multiple layers of defense system, from the sap to the various different things, enzyme and chemicals in the barks, the roots. And we take those things for our defense. Those are why we take herbal remedies. So everything has its defense in it. Why people put on suntan, and now suntan has become something that is being even studied now to see how safe it is to apply. Never was studied before. Now they're studying it because so much people more need suntan, because you realize, I can't just stay in the sun and bake. The sun is important for me, but too much of the sun is going to damage me. It's to me, it's a course that should be taught in school. There's a lot of things that I realized that the focus of education is math, English, science, and so forth. But there was no emphasis on living, that I'm training a person to live. The assumption is that your parents, I guess, would teach you. But most parents are ignorant of these information. How are they going to teach something that they themselves don't know? They're dying from it, lack of knowledge. So when I think about life, I think about it from in those terms. That part of my education that I think would have been nice is to educate me about the world I'm living in, number one, and number two, my body. What is it I'm living around? And I don't know, that's everything I'm saying here is philosophy, is my basic philosophy of life. So most of the time as teachers would never be able to teach me something that they don't believe or even acknowledge. So in Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12, Ephesians 6 verse 12, it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." You see, this is self-defense. This is teaching me that my troubles are not just the local guy down the road. My troubles are coming from way up high. And so when you sort of think of that, you think about like the opioid crisis, it's easy to understand what's going on. The local doctor per se is a part of the problem. The local pharmacist is a part of the problem. The local guy that's cooking meth in his shed, or the local drug dealer on the side of the road, is part of the problem. But there's greater problem from people way up high. And if I don't understand this, I don't understand how the FDA work. I don't understand how the food inspectors work. I don't understand how the pharmaceutical companies and their heads work, and the lifestyle they live in, and why they would want more people to take their products and be hooked on their products. I really don't understand life, and I need to be retrained. And I'm naive to the realities of evil, and that I have to be defensive. I have to investigate these things. I have to look into these things. It's not people want me dead. They want me high. They want me addicted. An addicted customer is better than a dead customer. But a customer person that's not a part of the customer base is no good. So that's why it's important to have a healthy suspicion and caution. If you see animals how they move in a very cautionary way. But human beings tend, with intelligence, who understand and can study the animals and study life and realize why one should be cautious. We tend sometimes not to move in a very defensive way. We tend to forget to have something on hand, and without having something on hand, sometimes if something happens, you're not prepared for it. Recently I was talking to my wife and I said, what, I have no oil of oregano. I need to get some. And I had some eucalyptus, I have some tea tree, but I said, man, I wish I had some oil of oregano. And so I didn't have that, and I wasn't feeling good in my stomach. So I started taking the. This is not a remedy. I'm not telling you to do this as a remedy. I'm just like I needed something that was more violent. So I just started dripping the tea tree oil and the oil of and the eucalyptus in my mouth, and then try to wash it down. But I wish I had some oil of oregano because I needed something, that's gonna really deal with virus, bacteria, whatever I was feeling. And and whatever went through my stomach, but it was just for that moment I was like, man, I need something. And then I say, see, you gotta think defensively. And somebody said, why would I trigger a thought of thinking defensively? That's literally why I'm doing this program this morning. Because I started thinking about it and say, I'm supposed to be on my game. And, I know stuff is always lurking. Stuff goes bad. And I'm supposed to be well aware of this. And so you move with caution when you deal with your health. You have some remedy on hand. To me, you shouldn't go without some charcoal, activated charcoal powder. You shouldn't go without bentonite clay. Both those are for internal and external to absorb toxins. You should have some of those more harsher. When I say harsher, I don't mean it in a negative sense, but in the sense of dealing with skin and internal infections or anything like that, or flare up or whatever. Should have some things to deal with poison, food poisoning. You should have, as I say, some tea tree oil always on hand. Tea tree oil is my go-to if I'm having any type of skin problem that is not like we call it like a hive, the thing where you like it, some reaction, negative reaction, allergic reaction to your skin. Not that, but if you have any type of cut, wound, anything, it's been proven to accelerate wound healing. Any type of skin thing like a hive, you always have to have some aloe vera. Run to the store and get some aloe vera. Take it down. It has natural steroids in aloe vera. So some tea tree, some aloe vera, on standby mentally if you don't have any, on your hand, and then some turmeric if necessary for the skin again. It's just important to have stuff because what happened 5 hours from now for me, I don't know. But what I know is evil is lurking. What I know is that evil is always present. Notice here I read from Psalms 23. This very beautiful psalm. And it's important to me because it is the psalm that I mentioned probably the most in my mind and verbally. I say it, but most of the time people don't know where I'm talking about, so I say it here. Notice here, I read from the beginning. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. When I read this, I hear the opposite. And I see the opposite. I see people going in life. And they're going in life and they're not going in near still waters. They're going in water that is raging. And if you've ever been near raging water, you realize that if you get caught up into that, you get swept away and drown. And there's things going on in life that when a person gets caught up in it, it's a torrent of water that overtops them and drown them. And you see people in this life being drowned. Think about these young people I just read about. They're thinking, oh, it's fun because they're naive. That's the other thing too. I don't think the millennials are necessarily the most, because this is the guy had said in the article that there's no precedent for this type of binge drinking. In other words, you can say marijuana. You can say, okay, the hippies in the 60s and the 70s, their kids now are smoking a lot of weed. So there's some history behind there. What is the history behind binge drinking? So it's, to me, a lot of what marked the millennials is this naivety to the fact that evil, because remember, that's a generation that is total. They're not like them parents arguing if there's a God. For them, there's no God. It's done. It's settled. And so they're just full long into the devil, and the devil is whipping them. So if you notice here, the Bible teaches different. It simply teaches that He maketh me lie down in green pastures. You can lie down and there's no green, nothing around you. It's all burnt and dry and arid. That's the opposite here. And also it says here, he leadeth me beside still water. You can be led in paths that is just raging. It's a mess. In verse 3, it says, he restored my soul. So your soul can come to a point where there's no restoration going on. You have no refreshing from the Holy Spirit. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. While Christ says, if you do right, it brings glory to the Father. It uplifts the Father. And you can come to a point in life that it's just, you ain't doing no right. It's just a mess. It's just all wrong. Now here goes. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. So I often say this, you probably don't never notice me. It's an often phrase I use because as I do most programs, say I'm doing tomorrow morning program and I'm talking about current events, this text always comes in my mind because I'm always reminded by when I read the news that we walk in the valley of the shadow of death. So we think defensively and it's good for health. When we look around us and we see what's going on, you got to think defensive. If a child is naive to the fact that there's evildoers out there, there's people who want to prey on you, there's people who want to abuse you, use you, there's people who are murderers. I believe that says sometime in these industries, they're literally mass murderers working. Then what? Then you have to know that you walk in this life in the valley of the shadow of death. Death is lurking all around and you're in the valley, you're compromised. And because of this, then you have to be a little bit more aware and not so naive and not so, oh yeah, it's all fun. Like, stop it. It's not all fun. We're in a world and there's a war going on around us and there's dead bodies piling up. Get out of that. But there's a generation that is just, oh yeah, it's going to be great. And then they drop dead. I'm like, how great was it for a few years, for a few months, for a few days? Because we walk in the valley of the shadow of death. But I close out that part. It says, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemy. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So we can have a blessed experience, but not in ignorance. We can have a great experience, but not in loose abandonment. We got to be aware that there's darkness lurking and that there's evil in that cup. There's evil in that pot and we shouldn't partake. But when you're trained that, it's all going to be good. It's all going to be good. And it's all about getting that good experience. Nope. That's not the reality there. So when we think defensively, we're simply thinking in the sense that, when I say think, we could have a philosophy of defense, is unlike the animals, we don't have no horns and hoofs. We don't have no jawline that we can, like a hyena. You ever see the neck of a hyena? It's unbelievable that you can clamp down on the prey. And that's your defense. We don't have none of that. We have no fangs. When we are compromised, if we have no method of self-defense, we're really compromised. And especially to me, when we get older, you think about an old person, an old man, an old woman, especially old women, they're so vulnerable. And so one has to think in different ways for various different reasons. One has to live life in different ways. I've seen grandmas get gunned and accidentally blow police away because they're confused. You can imagine having Alzheimer's and a gun and the police come knocking at your door and you'll be like, man, this one gonna get it. So these things happen. But we have to think defensively because that's the world we're living in. People are scammers, are con men. People are scammers and con men, always looking to rip people off and stuff like that. That's just part of it. So in your health, one has to think, what do I do if this happens? You have a plan. What do I do if I'm exposed to measles? What do I do if I'm exposed to the cold that is going around? We ended the cold. I think we're officially ended the cold season, but they said this cold season, cold and flu season, is the longest in I think over 50 years. This has been the most extended cold and flu season. But don't wait until you get hit. Somebody say, if I get a cold and you get a cold, you get sick, I get sick. Yeah, my immune system is compromised. I'll get it. So if I do get it, what do you do if you get it? And what's the result? Because you get sick, you're healthy, you're into health, you eat a certain way, you take herbs, and you get sick. Well, the thing is that I do get sick sometimes. But what we're trying to do is limit, because you already got it. You either try to eliminate not getting it, or you're trying to make sure that when you get it, you limit the severity and the length of the cold. That's the only thing. It's not that you won't get it or you can't get it, but you're trying to limit the amount of times you get it. So I say that firstly, the amount of time, the frequency. If you're one of these people that do get a cold or a flu, you've had it in the history, in your past. What you're simply trying to do is not so much not get it, because you're not going to be able to do that immediately as you try to build your health. What you're trying to figure out is in a situation, because now it's in you. You're first trying to stop it, but secondly, now you get it. You want to reduce the severity of the cold so that it doesn't get out of hand. You don't get to, say, pneumonia. And then you want to reduce the length of it. So normally a cold will last about 7 days. If you can get a cold and be out of it between a day or 2 or 3 days, say 3 days, that's what you want to do. You want to, so you don't want to, so where somebody else is struggling with it for 7 days, you struggle with it for 3 days. Where somebody's struggling with it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you only did it for 3 days, you're in a better condition. Where now somebody have it where it's so severe, you have it for shorter and less severe. Your body quicker find what to do, and you help your body, you feed your body, immediately you clear a colon, you start to go on more raw, you start to drink some soup, you start to take, some, cough syrup and all that, and you limit the severity. While somebody else, but they're fighting tooth and nail with all kind of stuff, and they can't get it out of their system. That's all it is. And then also you want to reduce the amount of time you get it. So I'm one of these people, because I have sinus problems. I tend to, in the past, get a lot of colds. And probably the last year and a half or so, I only got a cold, almost got a cold. I felt sick for a few days. I think it was in March. Just felt sick. I was just sleeping I just started sleeping it off, and then didn't I didn't develop a sinus. I didn't develop like a sore throat or anything like that, but I was wiped. My system was just down. I think for like 2 days straight, I would just be up for a few hours, and I had to sleep it off. And I think it started like on a Friday. I think I did the morning program. Within an hour or so, 2 hours, I just went to sleep, slept, get up, do something, went to church, spent the whole day at church, came back home, slept all night Saturday, and wake up for a few hours, and then slept almost all Sunday and then into Monday, and I was fine. Didn't get it severe, but I was severely affected in the sense that I had to keep sleeping and taking, various different herbal remedies for my immune system, for whatever. So it was still a fight, but it never took me to a point where my sinuses were off, or I didn't have a sore throat. I probably had a headache for 1 day, and I got it out of my system. So there was a still fight, but not as severe as I'd had in the past. So more and more I learned, you got to get ready. So I had the stuff ready. I didn't even have to go to the store. I just start, hitting it hard, sleep, and just shut down. That's the other thing too. If you can't shut down, that's where sometimes people get, worse, because they can't shut down. They can't I'm going to stop everything I'm doing and shut down. It just so happened it came on just on the weekend where I could pull back and calm myself down. So this is part of the mechanism in life. It is a reason why you're more cautious. And a person would think it's too much to do that. But again, when it comes onto our private property, think about like a car. How much security over the years they've put into a car, because it's of value. And the value of the car and the more expensive the car is the more security features they put into the car to make it that the possibility of stealing a car become lessened, because the thief has to come up with more methodologies to steal it. Basically, you have to become an expert to steal these more, newer cars. And that's just part of the reality. The more valuable the thing is, the more you put into defending it and to protect it and to maintain it. And so it is with your health. You gotta think in a defensive way. You're gonna think in a proactive way, because you know what's out there. You know the disease that's lurking. You know that you can't just have your body and sleep with anything that moves, because there's other diseases out there to be caught. So you got to think defensively. You got to think in a proactive way. Notice in Genesis 2 verse 9, it says, and out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So, Adam and Eve was told not to eat the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But they did. But if you notice there, first thing you come to mind is this idea of loyalty has to be proven by others. Loyalty is not something that it can be granted to somebody. Loyalty is something that you earn and prove. You prove that you're loyal to something. So this was part of the thing here. That test was there. It was a real test, but it was a test also of loyalty. Are you loyal to your creator? Are you not? And that's what it is. It's just part of the events of life. But also what is interesting to me and intriguing is that there are bad things in nature. There was something in nature, whether you could call it bad or good, you could just simply call it, there was something in nature that was off limit. And in life, you got to go through life like this. This is part of your defense. You got to go through life and know that there's do's and don'ts. There's things that are on the okay list. There's things that are on the always. And there's things that are on the no way. So you have something that no way you're going to partake of that. There are things that are okay. They're made by God, and there's things that are good. Have you ever talked to somebody who is fascinated with drugs and alcohol or certain lifestyle practice, and they think if God make it, it must be good? But there's things that God made that is not for food. It's not supposed to be ingested. It doesn't mean that God didn't make it and it's not good. It's just not good for that. See, we actually don't know. Probably we're going to find out what exactly was the tree of good, knowledge of good and evil. It probably was just that. There's probably no other thought to it. But, I know God enough. What I know about God, I should say, my study of God, is that God is a multidimensional in his creation. In other words, God makes something and he has multiple functions. So God makes the tree, and the tree is good for sight. But if you study a little bit closer, you find out that a tree that is good for sight has other functions in nature. It just doesn't function for that. You think about the sloth. The sloth is this animal that they say move very slow. It's in places like South America and so forth. But more and more they find that he is so slow that he has all kind of bacteria and all kind of stuff on his body, and it's very good for nature. But it does. Somebody would say, "Oh, it's just there to look at. It's just a pet." No, it's not. It has a little function. Everything has multiple functions, just like us. We are multiple function. We're creatures of intelligence. We're creatures of beauty. We're creatures of all these things. And so when you look at nature, you understand that nature are multiple. It could have been there for another reason. So that's one thing I've learned. And it's part of your defenses. You got to know that not everything in nature is to go in your mouth. It's not everything in nature need to go up your nose. Not everything in nature need to be drink in a tea. It's just, that's just it. Like, as I say, you see a marmot, which is like a groundhog, I think they say. Something in the line of a groundhog. And you look at the groundhog, he has purpose. He keeps you on your toes so that he keeps trying to destroy your garden. But not necessarily there to eat. It's just there so that you can always have something to chase out of your garden. And that's it. That's it. He has other use that we don't even know of. And that's why we're in trouble in nature, because we're killing so many things are going extinct. and we don't understand their fully what they bring to the table. So you kill it, and then next thing you know, you find something going bad. You're like, oh, I didn't know that connect with that. Everything is connected. And like look at the bee. The bee is a very beautiful example of that. The bee is a pollinator. All the bees are pollinators. So they bring pollen from one plant to the next. But then the bee also makes honey. So everything has multiple functions, and lo and behold, if you keep studying, I'm sure they find other functions the bees serve. Everything has a function. And so not everything, part of, to me, my defense is to keep yourself safe as you look in this life. And I think that's missing from the training of the young people. It's not everything you see, you take it and put in your mouth. I wouldn't put my calculator. I always have a calculator on my desk. I wouldn't take my calculator and put it in my mouth and start chewing it. It's just not like, a fruit leather fruit or a fruit leather. You don't chew on everything. And that to me is one of the story you get here. That is a tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Part of that is if you rebel, you're going to learn evil. But I believe also it's something in the tree that if you partake of it, it'll change your internals. Same it is with so much things in nature. People say, yeah, but Jesus made marijuana. Yeah, but he didn't tell you to smoke it. It might have very good medicinal purposes in some other form or way. I don't know. People are still studying for that. But it doesn't mean that says everything need to be drink. Somebody say, yeah, but look, you have some apples or whatever, and it's spoiled, and you can drink it. Not necessarily you need to drink the spoiled apple. Eat the apple fresh. Why we have to partake of everything, I do not know. People want to have poisonous snakes as pets. It's not everything out there need to be a pet. Same thing with food. Not everything need to be eaten. And when you learn that, you realize that there's things that are on the okay list. They should be eaten. But there's things that are on the always list. Fruits is the thing that we know. Fruits off trees. You see a tree, you see the fruit on the tree. The Lord says, eat as much as you want. And you say, how much? Don't stop. Just keep eating. You don't have to worry about that. But you come over here. Remember the last time I had like a real good coconut a few years back. And I had one. And the guy that was cutting it said, you probably only can have one. So it's okay. I have one. And he was right. I couldn't have any more. And then I wait probably an hour later or so. Or a little bit more an hour. I was like, man, I'm hungry again. And I had another one. And that was it. So I was limited by the coconut itself. So you could have all you want. Just eat as much as that. But this thing on the list over here, you need to limit it, like grains and beans and stuff like that. You shouldn't just eat it unlimited. And then certain things over here, you look at nature and said, nature has a reason for that thing. I'm not going to partake of it. Boom, done. End of story. So notice here in Genesis 1 verse 1 through 7, you're very familiar with this text. So I'm not going to read it, but I'm going to talk about it. So in Genesis 3 verse 1 through 7 is the serpent coming to Eve and saying, you should eat of this. And as you know, the serpent comes to Eve, he says, eat of this thing. And one of your defenses is to be able to get a second opinion. That's the point I want to make there. Get a second opinion. Sometimes it's in life it's good to ask other people for their opinion, especially somebody that might give you a different opinion. Just simply, let me ask this. This thing is going on. What do you think? And that's often all you need. Learn to ask for counsel. And it is part of your defense in this life. Is you ask for a second opinion. Ask for a divergent opinion. I do not know after all these years why people don't see the benefits of natural. If you have cancer, you're going to take chemotherapy. I will not tell you not to take chemotherapy. That's your business, or radiation. But at least ask, hey, Lord, what will you do if you have this cancer? And I'll say, hey, this is what I would do. And then go do that or something along that line. At least get a second opinion of what's possible. It's not going to hurt. And especially if there's no drug interaction with what you take in natural. do something different. Do something different. Check out somewhere else. Go something else. Do something. So notice here, in verse 6, it says, "And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat." So the moment her philosophy changed is the moment she saw the thing that was good. And that's where danger came in. The problem is you can have an unhealthy naivety. You can have an unhealthy ignorance. You can have an unhealthy fear, lack of fear for danger, and not knowing that evil is lurking. You can have that, and I've been places where when I look back, I thought that probably wasn't the safest thing for me to do, because I was taking a chance with certain things. And I look back and say, no, I wouldn't do that again. Because it's unhealthy, and so I have a natural fear. But when you're in a zone and you don't think about certain things, it's like you don't have a natural fear. So you go to the food truck, and the guy's selling the food, and he's handling the money, and he's handling the food, and he's rushing, so he can't really, put on the gloves all the time, or so he's even sometimes handling money if he has with the gloves on. And then you get a stomach virus. You say, what happened? You just kind of you're very bold or something. Doesn't have a proper place to wash his hand. He doesn't have a proper place to use the bathroom. You have to use a facility bathroom, but so forth and so on. But then he's running from one place to the other. So if you have to urinate, you probably have to urinate on the side of the road. And after that, you have to make your food, and life goes on and on. And so sometimes you have to have a, healthy suspicion of, and try to think things through, like think in the process, say, wait a minute, where does he go to the bathroom? Does he wash his hand every time? So forth and so on. And it would be good, but when people are rushing and trying to make money, sometimes just the time is not there. You just have to get some stuff in your mouth. So if you look at Eve here, she believed, she didn't ask for a second opinion. She was sold that something is good. And as I say, in this life, because you have a healthy fear, you have to sometimes double check. You have to go back and say, let me do my own research. When a doctor say, here's this medicine, it's okay for you to have a healthy fear to say, what, let me just go double check what my options are. What is the medicine he's giving me? What is the side effects? For yourself. It's okay to try to seek out a different way of doing things. But when you don't do this, what happens is that you end up swallowing stuff that you are not to swallow, and eating stuff that you are not to eat. And the issue is not the food you're eating or the lifestyle you're practicing. The issue is the philosophy you're at. It's what you're fed or believing. And because you don't have a healthy fear, you believe, yeah, that's good. And you just rush on, you give me. And I've been sickened before because of that. Because somebody said, oh, it's good. And I didn't check to see if the person even understood what I asked them. So now if I say to a person, listen, I'm vegan. I don't want, I'm vegan, and, whatever I eat has to be vegan. And the person said, okay. I didn't have to stop and say, let me ask you this. Do you know what vegan mean? And often the person like, oh, so you don't eat no meat, right? Yeah, but I don't eat no butter. I don't eat no milk. I don't eat nothing from the animal. And the person, all right, that would have fed me everything I don't eat. And some of those things I don't eat just because I'm vegan. Some of it I don't eat because I have allergy reaction to milk. I don't do well with milk. But the person will be like, oh yeah, it's vegan. And they don't really understand. And that's what it is. You have to have that. It's just a healthy caution. You have to be cautious because it's just the world we live in. You have to be cautious. Is the kitchen kosher? Are you cooking the burger, the veggie burger on the same griddle as you cooking the meat burger? Do you practice proper practices that don't make cross-contamination and so forth? If they can't say that to you, then probably you shouldn't, eat there. They're not set up for that. And it's important. But when you go through life and you be like, yeah, it's all good. And then you realize people are not in that mode of being a stickler for what you are a stickler for, because they think what you're doing is over the top, while they're dying from all kind of weird diseases and sicknesses, and you don't want to suffer. Then they can't see why. They don't understand what it is like to go a whole year and just having your energy, being able to go the day on 5 hours sleep and don't even feel like you need to take a nap. They don't understand that. They don't understand the value of your brain working, in a big way, big time, bigly, hugely, as the president say. They don't understand that concept. So you're telling them, look, I'm high in life. I go through my day most of the time, and I have my energy. I'm alive. I'm awake. I love that. I don't want nothing to affect it. I don't want even to have when I have a down day because my stomach is going bad or something. It just kills me because I enjoy having my energy and bursting with energy. So the value of that is not in for a person who from in their 20s they've been binge drinking. They don't understand the value of health. And so you have to be proactive. But because they're so naive to the whole idea that, look, you don't have hoofs, you don't have horns, you don't have fangs, you have no skin that is like thick like the deer and the cow. So you have to be careful where you lay down. You have to be careful the surroundings, how clean it is. You have to be careful on things that other people, it don't matter to them, because for them, they're used to life where they're probably 25% of their functioning self. They're used to eating every garbage that is put out by every manufacturer. They're used to eating all kind of fake foods and genetically engineered foods, and so the brain is half alive. And they don't understand that I've been on both sides of the aisle. I've been over the part where I eat everything that was put out there. I eat every red number 40, just all the fake sodas and the fake Kool-Aid and the fake milkshake and the fake everything. I ate it all. And I know how I felt. And I know I felt in my 20s. And now I'm in my 40s, I know how I felt now. And so for me, the concept of thinking in a defensive way, thinking I need to protect myself, thinking I need to make the moves because I'm an intelligent being just like you, and we're not animals that are built with defense, in other words. You see, the animals don't have to think about it and plan ahead. They don't have to read labels because for the most part, their stomach, their hide, their hoofs, their horns, they give them a certain level of protection, and they're still dying in mass. I'm not saying they're not dying, but I'm just saying they're built with more protection than you. A pig can eat garbage. We can't eat garbage. And why we shouldn't? Because we have a brain. And so there are people selling garbage. You go in the supermarket, sometimes you see the section where they have the spoiled stuff selling for poor people. And yet we have a brain to know it's better for me to buy one banana than buy a hand of banana, spoiled banana. We have intelligence, so we ought to use that intelligence in the way, but we have to think not just in I need to eat. No, I need to eat, but I need to be careful. I need to be cautious. If I see an outbreak, I need to take precaution. I need to boost my immune system. I need to act proactively. I need to do what the binge drinkers are doing, and sometimes binge drink a gallon of water, which I've done, and you should try it. And if you have a sick problem, go to your doctor first. Don't say I sent you to go binge drink water and then die and then try to blame me. But if you're just in your good health, you're supposed to be able to do it. But if you do it, you see what I'm talking about. You binge drink a gallon of water and you do that for a few days, your body feels excellent, and you increase your capacity to urinate or to hold your urine. It's unbelievable how it increases your capacity, your bladder capacity. So you do that, and you, as I say, you think of any methods you must do to be proactive, and you find that all that's going to happen, you're going to feel better for it, and God will bless you. Let's pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you again for the blessings of this day, for the blessings, dear Lord, of giving us life and giving us a mind, dear Lord, to serve thee. May you be with us, dear Lord, and continue to cleanse us and teach us, dear Lord, to be like thee, to be on the watch, to understand that we're in a great controversy and there's a battle for our souls. and for our lives. May you bless us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live tomorrow morning, where we should talk about current events. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.